I know. You're gonna say I'm crazy, but Chris Cuomo just gave Democrats the finger.
Once again, to my earlier point, fuck you. You get nicked in the ear by a bullet. And tell me that it's no big deal.
Chris Cuomo, lefties who downplayed Trump's assassination attempt are the ones to blame for Harris's loss.
And someone else who seems to have had a bit of a come-to-Jesus moment on all this is American news anchor Chris Cuomo.
Welcome back, guys. Glad to have you. You guys tell me, what kind of chance do you think we have in this country of seeing that kind of rhetoric replace the radical progressive left rhetoric in the Democrat Party? Please like and subscribe and hit that little notification bell. He doesn't always get things right, but he deserves credit for this recent rant where he went after the left for downplaying Trump's first assassination attempt where he took a bullet to the ear.
What I found completely appalling and outrageous was how unimpressed lefties were by Trump getting shot in the head. And how many of you would say, will you stop saying he got shot in the head? It just nicked his ear.
Cuomo correctly points out that if this had happened to Harris, the left would have lost their minds.
He was the top-rating host on CNN until he was fired in 2021 for allegedly helping to cover up sexual harassment allegations against his brother, who was then the governor of New York.
Yeah, I don't think he's a fan of the party. He's been getting on him for a minute now.
I'm having a hard time because we are so desperate to drag ourselves away from greatness. And that is what I see that really bothers me. And the reaction and the lack of reaction to the second attempt on Trump.
Law enforcement officials apprehended Routh about 50 miles north of the club, approximately 45 minutes after he fled the scene.
He had an AK-47 pointed at him. The reaction is unacceptable. And it's the second time media and political players have gotten away with playing down what should be a cause for panic.
I'm really hoping this is the kind of rhetoric that's going to start dominating on the left.
Nah, that's crazy. If that had happened to Harris, you guys would have talked about it for 3 days nonstop about how we're in helter-skelter mode or whatever it is. And then you go call me a bigot.
Which is kind of just wild to me, because the Democrats love talking about empathy.
There is a complete lack of empathy in this guy in the White House right now. I know you, and I will fight for you. I would love your vote.
I mean, at least the last part was true. The level of hypocrisy in these people, it's just comical. Hey, Amy, I think the people of Chicago and St. Louis and New York and Kensington and Baltimore and LA and Portland and San Francisco and would love to have a conversation with you about how that empathy is working out for everybody.
This is why you lost the election. That's exactly why you lost the election.
Because they're liars and they're thieves and they can't hide it anymore.
You are out of touch. You lost the plot about how people feel in the majority.
Why did Kamala Harris lose?
Inflation, the border, Joe Biden waiting far too long to do what he should have done all along, and then Kamala Harris being installed by party elites instead of nominated by a democratic process. But I think the larger problem is the Democratic Party has become the party of the establishment, of the status quo.
He is absolutely right. He hit the nail on the head.
Which is not the worst thing to be. They need defending.
And then he falls flat on his face. See, this kind of thinking is the problem. It's exactly the way the corporate interest and the advertisement money rallies behind these party elites and has their constituents buying into these narratives that are so harmful to the country.
Oh, I think it was just a teleprompter. You would have never assessed it that way if you didn't wish the guy had died. How fucked up is that? That you wished he had died. That you play down that he was shot at. It was disgusting. And I, for one, felt a measure of satisfaction that you were punished for it politically.
Get him, Cuomo. I don't agree with most of your politics, but I can agree with you on this.
Because there is no place for that. Oh, he would have. He is not the standard of any kind of virtue, okay? And he still beat you.
Yeah, because our president is not elected on their virtue. They're elected on the policy platforms they present. We don't treat them like some Greek god to idolize. We're not into stuff like that in this country. Why Democrats lose when they play identity politics?
They also need reforming, and not along the lines that the party has been pursuing, which has been the most basic identity of a citizen is group identity based on race, gender, sexuality. And that is how the party's organized itself. It's how it's seen its constituents, how it's come to various positions on cultural issues. And I think in doing so, it has lost a large number of ordinary Americans who don't see themselves primarily in those terms, who are mostly working class, middle class, and who used to be the backbone of the Democratic Party. If you look at the party 50 years ago and today, it's almost done a reversal. There are a lot of non-college educated Americans of all races, and they are moving toward the Republican Party, and that is not a winning strategy.
And somehow this is a surprise to the Democrat Party.
What a shocker that the people who see everything through the lens of race and sex see their election loss as a result of racism and sexism. Yes, if only we weren't so irredeemably unenlightened, we would have elected a black president by now. Oh, what, we did? Asked if racism is built into our society. White progressives agreed with that at higher levels than black and Hispanic people. They don't want your pity. And black people can't afford to indulge rich white people's need to endlessly flagellate themselves. They just want prices to go down and good jobs and the police when you call them.
This is good, right? This is the kind of conversations they need to have. This can shift our Overton window back in the direction it needs to go in.
Well, if he's right, then why didn't people vote for the former prosecutor who actually had policy plans to help?
This stupid bitch. Here's someone who's either never read her economic policy profile or has no idea what would actually work in terms of saving a country and repairing a country's economy. Lady, are you out of your mind? Guys, please check out my article, Kamala Harris's economic policy profile, if you're ever interested. Dude, it was a nightmare. Price controls? That stuff never works because you're not addressing what leads to the increased prices in the first place. So you just end up with shelves not being stocked. That's exactly the type of thing that led to the snowball effect that was the collapsing Venezuelan economy.
Now, I'm going to speak some hard truths to my friends in the Democratic Party. We are not the party of common sense, which is what the message that voters sent to us. For a number of reasons, we don't know how to speak to voters. When we address Latino, and language has meaning. When we address Latino voters as Latinx, for instance, because that's the politically correct thing to do. It makes them think that we don't even live on the same planet as they do.
According to a recent poll conducted by the Democratic firm Blueprint, only 5% of Americans say that Joe Biden is far more conservative than me. Ask yourself, what percentage of Democratic activists, liberal TV hosts, White House staffers, liberal think tankers, and donors believe that Biden is far more conservative or even somewhat more conservative than they are? I'd be shocked if the number wasn't closer to 90%. In other words, the elites who push the agenda of the Democratic Party actually believe that Biden is a fairly conservative, old-school centrist Democrat, while even most Democratic voters do not.
When we put pronouns after names and say she, her, as opposed to saying, you know what, if I call you by the wrong pronoun, call me out, I'm sorry, I won't do it again. But stop with the virtue signaling and just speak to people like they're normal. We constantly try to parse out different ways of speaking to different cohorts because our focus groups or our polling shows that so-and-so appeals to such and such. That's not how normal people think. It's not common sense. And until we do that, we should stop blaming other people for our own mistakes.
Yeah, but the problem is, I'm wondering if anyone in the party's even listening.
Andy, you spoke with some local advocates and Democrats about this.
Yeah, Brian, simply put, they disagree with this sentiment and say that current messaging shouldn't be changed and won't increase support among voters.
You know what I think this means? I think this means we got a couple of elections before they really get their heads out from deep within their ass. Did you guys know that the top DOJ prosecutor for all those January 6 cases is resigning before Trump even enters office? We got a video doing a deep dive on him on the left over here. And then yesterday, did you guys hear about that event in New Orleans? That dude running into those people with the truck? We do a deep dive on him and everything that happened too. Check it out, guys. Hey, I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much.